Rich Graham is a Navy SEAL veteran and the creator of the Full Spectrum Warrior System. He is the president of Homefront Canine Project, the vice president of SEAL Swim Charities, and currently sits on the board of directors for both of those charities and is committed to assisting in veteran suicide awareness and prevention. Now, his accomplishments, we could fill a library. He was a SEAL Team 10 operator, SEAL Team sniper, Thai boxing coach and competitor. He is an elite instructor in many disciplines. He's trained security forces and has oversaw security teams for the Olympic Games. He's a tactical advisor to multiple SWAT teams, police departments, not just in our country, but around the world. As a personal trainer, his clientele ranges from everyday athletes to professional athletes in the NFL, as well as Olympians. He is a leadership coach and a master tactical trainer and so much more. Welcome to the show, Rich Graham.
Thank you. Wow. I appreciate the big intro. I hope I live up to it.
Oh, man, I didn't get into all your certifications. I mean, you have done it all, and I really am excited for people to just get a little taste of some of the things that you have to offer. I mean, you invest in people all the time, and people are just going to kind of get a taste of that, of what you do. Can you share with us your journey of how you got interested in and then how you became a Navy SEAL? I mean, is this something that you want to do since childhood? How did that all come about?
You know, to give the short or the more abbreviated version of that, I was actually not planning on doing it. And I was actually being groomed to be an architect. My father's an architect, and I was in high school, and I was going to a lot of the advanced placement, art and kind of mathematic classes. And, you know, it came time to sign the paperwork to go to college. I had a scholarship and all sorts of stuff like that. And I was just like, you know what? I don't feel like sitting behind a desk is my calling. I feel like there's more that I want to do. I just don't feel like my spirit is that can just sit in an office. You know what I mean? And as much as I love creating things, I just felt like that maybe that kind of creation would happen later on in my lifetime, not when I had as much energy as I had. So last minute, I got cold feet, and I told my parents that I was going to go try out for this Navy SEAL thing. I'd been talking to some friends, and I'm like, dude, what's the hardest? It's like the hardest military thing they got. And then some people told me about the SEAL teams. I didn't really know what it was at the time, but I was like, that sounds cool. You know, what do they do? And at the time, I wanted to be a part of SEAL Team 4. This is pre 9/11. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to be a part of SEAL Team 4, which was operating in Central and South America and trying to take down drug cartels and fighting that battle. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to fight those guys. And I joined, and I just, you know, I got some pushback from the school. I got some pushback from my family and some friends. Obviously, it was a big undertaking that I was getting ready to do. And yeah, I had talked to one guy who was a SEAL, who actually went to high school with my older brother. And he had just basically said to me, like, hey, man, if you want it bad enough, you can do it. If you want anything bad enough, you can do it. And I'm like, all right, cool. That's all I need to hear. And from that aspect, I'm like, put the ball in my court, you know, let me handle that. You know what I mean? And from that point on, I fast tracked to the Navy, and as soon as I got out of high school, I left for the Navy, and you know, made it through the SEAL training at, you know, I think I was 19 years old, and yeah, showed up to the SEAL team at 19 and got started young.
You know, what's so interesting about that is, you know, the two principles. One, I think it's interesting that, you know, you started out talking about this whole creating things, but it was delayed because now you do create teams. You know, if you think about a different level, you're an architect, but you're more building people and building teams. So I think that's kind of cool how that's come full circle. And then the whole idea of if you want it bad enough, you can get it, because this is something I want to talk about, because I've just always been so interested in this training. It is the toughest challenge, I think, on the planet. I mean, I've watched documentary after documentary, which really, again, you're not really understanding because you're not living it, you're not seeing it live. It's the toughest training on the planet. And so many people tap out, ring the bell. How did you, now you make it through, but what are some of the key factors to making it through? What are some of the key disciplines or things that you had to do to make it through?
Well, one of the first steps was being careful who you listen to. So if I had listened to the world, I never would have even tried out. You know what I mean? Because when I went to SEAL training, I was 146 pounds, and everyone had told me I was too small. When I was at SEAL training, I was like 153 pounds. On the bigger side, I got up to like 157, but like I wasn't a big guy. I was lanky and small and skinny. Not small like height wise, but like I just wasn't a big dude. I'm 5'11", so I'm not like super tall, but just lanky. And the when I listened to the people, like my high school friends and my friends' parents and all that kind of stuff, everyone who had never been a Navy SEAL was telling me I couldn't be a Navy SEAL. You know what I mean? So first off, I would say that one of the main things is when you go to track advice from the people who have what you want. So I'll pick people who I listen to and get advice from and counsel with on different aspects of my life. You know what I mean? And I have certain coaches or certain people I listen to on each individual topic that I find that they've had success in that area and that there's information that I want to gain from them. The next part is going through that kind of training is keeping a positive attitude. You know what I mean? And there's so many people who would get, weary and well doing. And it's just like, dude, you just gotta, the harder it got, the better you felt at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So instead of being like, man, that day was so hard, it was like, dude, that day was so awesome. Because no one wants to show up to the SEAL team, being the dude who went through the easy, BUDS class. And BUDS is the SEAL training, basic underwater demolition SEAL training or school. So the, you don't want to show up like that's your opportunity to prove yourself, to earn your own self-respect and the self-respect of the people that you want to go, work with, the dudes who inspired you to be an elite military member. So you want it to be hard. That's like you're earning your badge right there, and then another part is, and this is good for like all goals, is not looking we got to be long-term focused, but not looking so long-term that you can't break down that individual day or that individual task. Because one of the things that people would do is be like, holy crap, I can't imagine I have to do this for 6 months. And they would psych themselves out. They're like, I don't even know if I'm going to get through the next 15, 20 minutes, let alone doing this for 6 months. So what I would do is it would be like, I'd wake up in the morning, whatever they're going to do to me, they can't make me quit by breakfast. At breakfast, they got to give me a chance to eat. When I eat breakfast, they can't break me between now and lunch. And then they can't break me before dinner, and then they can't break me. They got to let us go to bed at some point. And then it's like, boom, Monday's down. Okay, Monday's down. Let's handle Tuesday. By Wednesday, you're like, dude, we're halfway through the week. Thursday, dude, we're on the downhill slope. Friday comes. No one quits on a Friday. You got to be an idiot to quit on Friday. We got Saturday and Sunday to kind of like regroup, rest, and get ourselves in order. And then boom, week one's down. You know what I mean? So taking this big goal or this big task and breaking it down into incremental goals that you can actually visualize. Maybe I can't picture myself in 6 months, but I can picture myself between now and breakfast or now and lunch. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And taking that and compartmentalizing small specific goals, and not like we want to hold on to that big dream, that big goal, but we have to break that down into things that we can actually accomplish here and now on a daily basis so that we can keep that motivation.
Yeah, and that's gold because, two things for people that are listening to, you need to write this down, is the fact about being and listening to the right people. So many of us, we all have people that are talking at us all the time, listening to the right people and then breaking down the goals. It's like the old saying, I don't know who came up with it, but how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And it's, one day at a time. I love that. What qualities or disciplines did you need to develop to become a sniper? I mean, there's all kinds of emotional control, combating over arousal, breathing techniques. Can you share with us some of the things that you had to learn to develop to do that?
Yeah, it's funny you ask that, because when they talk about the SEAL training being the hardest training, in the military, and that, if they want to say that, I haven't been through the other military training, so I can't personally speak on it, but it was definitely hard. But sniper school was way harder than SEAL training. Going through going through the buds, you could kind of just put your head down in a lot of things and just like will your way through it and keep a positive attitude and just work really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And but in sniper school, it was not only extremely physically challenging, it was also very mentally challenging. And then you actually had to be good at it, so like
Yeah.
don't really no like carrying logs around and all that stuff. It's not like you're good at carrying a log. Either you can carry the log or you can't. But to do the math and to understand like reading wind and looking at the mirage 800 meters away and understanding what the wind is doing at that distance, and then making the right judgment call on what it's going to take to make that shot and make that shot hit. There's a lot of there's so many little things to it, and it's like you got to be able to see it, you got to be able to understand it, and not everyone does. And one of the big things for the sniper stuff, like from a standpoint of stalking, for example, you have we might be doing a 2,000-yard stalk, and you're not belly crawling the entire time of 2,000 yards, but you might be this big open grass field, like tall grass field with some shrubs and scattered trees and some, rolling terrain. And you have to navigate through this. And it's one of those things where a lot of times in combat sports and everything, you're doing everything super fast
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. And now you change gears into doing this, and you're super hot. You're wearing all this, your ghillie suit, and you're carrying a gun that weighs, 25 to 35 pounds, along with all your camera equipment and your other, gear and your water and all this. So you have a lot of weight. And now you're doing all these movements, but you're doing everything really slow and methodical, like a chameleon. You know what I mean? You ever see a chameleon move and he's like this?
That's awesome.
And that slow and controlled movement. So it's a totally different type of like muscle fatigue and burn. And we don't really train for that at the gym. No one goes in the gym and like, I'm going to take 10 minutes to do one squat,
Mm-hmm.
like, so to do those kind of movements, it just takes, a lot of mental fortitude, and it's fatiguing. But then when you get into the weeds of it, and you're crawling and trying to do those slow movements, and you have like the bugs coming in your face, and you're just sweating, and the cami paint and the sweat is coming into your eyes, and the sun's beating down on your back, and you're down in the tall grass, and the humidity is super high, and it's like hard to breathe. You just want to get up sometimes, and like you might crawl for 45 minutes or 30 minutes to get to this spot you think is going to be this great spot, and then you realize that there's this one stupid tree that's like, another 50 yards out, and it's got this branch that's like this, that's blocking your shot, and you're like, oh my God, this isn't going to work. I have to pick a new spot. And you literally just want to get up and like throw your stuff and have a temper tantrum, and you can't, and you have to keep your composure and just slide back out, crawl back out, shift, and make a new game plan. And it's just one of those things, because you want to just be physical, like, and aggressive with it, but you can't. You just have to keep that composure. So one of the hardest disciplines I think a lot of the guys have, coming from like, we've been training and doing combatives, and we've been striking, and then we've been on the assault team, and you've been kicking indoors and running through the shoot house, and then we get to this, and it's the complete opposite of everything. And you have to just be very slow and methodical and calculated and strategize. And at the same time, you have to do that under massive amounts of stress of being found, and then just the elements and the physical fatigue of doing it.
Yeah, so I'm sure it's a lot like that with the recon too that you probably do, the whole staking
Very
out
similar.
and
Yep.
But can you describe it? I don't know if this really happens or not, but one of the things that we talk about just in general with over arousal, when somebody's going to make a perfect shot, how low do you bring your heart rate down? How do you control and dial everything in to that, one perfect shot where you just, I'm not sure what all goes through your mind. I'm just saying, is there a process where you just can calm yourself and bring that heart rate down to, that level where you're not over aroused, like the controlled state,
Yeah.
that flow state?
Well, you try to practice that every time you shoot. You know what I mean? We do lots of drills where we'll be running with weights and dragging things and picking things up and, doing sprints to get our heart rate up. And people who don't understand will watch and be like, yeah, dude, when are you going to be running, with kettlebells in combat? And it's like, that's not the point. We can't simulate someone shooting at me. You know what I mean? Like, you could do it once. You could have like a gunfight with each other for training, like one time. You know what I mean? And one of you is not going to be able to play again.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
What we do is you take things like weights or other things of that nature. You do physical exertion to spike your heart rate to try to put you in that state of stress that we could closely simulate having an elevated heart rate. And then when you come into your shooting drill, you then try through controlling your breathing and relaxing yourself into the position to then get those good shots. And again, sometimes you have an elevated heart rate and it's just practicing like the rhythmic pause of the breath and whatnot. And yeah, it's just something you have to train. And not only just the shooting aspect of it, when we run our training with police, we run one of our courses that we run is called Strategic Thinking Under Stress. And one of the things that we do is we're bringing all these different puzzles, and we have some of these puzzles that we do, these drills, like a SWAT team I was just working with a month or two ago in Mississippi. We had you had this puzzle, it has like a picture, and the picture is like all these little shapes and has yellow and red pieces, and you have to put I show a flashcard, and they have to make the pieces make that picture, but the pieces can fit all these different ways, and like you think you have it, but when you get to the last piece doesn't fit, and it's like, oh crap, we got to start over and try again. But where this puzzle might take someone a few minutes to solve, what we have them doing is you might have 3 people in a team, and one person on the team's holding a plank. The next person gets up, does a sprint, and has to shoot a couple targets without missing. And if they do, they have to do like another sprint, and they only have so much time to complete this targets before they get penalized. And then once they've done that, they run back and tap the person out, and the one person's working on the puzzle. So the person on the puzzle gets like 30 seconds to 1 minute to work on the puzzle. And it's like the person on the puzzle wants more time to work on the puzzle. The dude sitting in the plank doesn't want to be in the plank. And the dude running to do the shots, he's trying to get the shots done as quickly as he can so he doesn't get penalized. So now you have the 3 like rotating through, but they have to solve this puzzle. And every 5 minutes I walk over, and if they haven't solved it, I dump the puzzle and they have to start the puzzle over. So it's doing this, problem solving and trying to do fine motor skills and to calculate things while you're fatigued, while you're stressed out, while you're being rushed. And some groups will finish in like 8 minutes if they're doing awesome. But the other week we had a team, they literally did this for 43 minutes straight. And it's like, when does it stop? It stops when you guys finish the task, and but it's important for us to train not only the physical side of it, but we have to train that mental side of it, because when it comes down to it, if we never train that cognitive thinking skills under pressure, then when it comes time to make good judgment calls and good sound decisions, we're not going to be able to do it. Just like when it comes time to actually have to utilize our firearm or to make those judgment calls, with how to use our equipment. Maybe you're a firefighter, law enforcement, it could be whatever. It could be an engineer or something like that. If you've never had to do that stuff, or like an EMT, and you haven't done that under physical stress, then when time comes and your heart rate's elevated and now you're flopping around and you're trying to give someone an IV and you're sticking them like 5 times to get the vein, you know what I mean? So it's it plays out in many different job fields and occupations.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions when I was looking at your courses. that was when I think that just it applies to everybody. You know, it's not
Yeah.
just police, it's elite athletes. You know, a lot of times they panic under pressure, or you can't think straight. A drill they could run under no pressure is fine, but you put the pressure on. I mean, it's just something that translates to everybody because everybody's going to face crisis. Everybody
Yeah.
faces stress. So it's just one of those courses I thought, man, no matter what you're doing, this is something that would be so beneficial. I think it's such a great course. The SEALs, this is what's really neat to me. The SEALs, and I think all military in general, but specifically the SEALs, you guys have a special bond. It's a brotherhood. And I think that most people on Earth, they really are never going to experience anything like that. Can you share with us a little bit about the bond that happens when you're in the military, about, you know, being part of something bigger than yourself, fighting for the guy next to you? Can you share a little bit about that bond?
Yeah, I think when people go through super stressful things, I think um, it brings, as bad as those things are, like in different areas of your life, I feel like a lot of times stress and hardship brings people closer together. You know what I mean? If you look at New York City after 9/11, like all the BS that everyone was dealing with and all the bantering back and forth after 9/11, that entire city came together and was unified. And as tragic as it was, just like with every tragedy, there's a seed for opportunity. You know what I mean? And so I think with going through that training and how hard it is and how many people you become friends with and you see them go and they quit, the guys who are there, I think there's this bond that happens. And I refer to it as like the crucible, and you're going through this tribal initiation to see if you belong. And part of that is earning the respect of the guys who you're there with, but also earning the respect of yourself. And I feel like coming out of it, when you get to the team, it's like, hey man, I have a lot to learn still, because obviously I'm a new guy, but the dudes look at you and they're like, you belong here. And we've weeded out hundreds and hundreds of people for these few people to show up into this unit, and you belong here. And I think that's part of that special bond that's formed there. And then obviously that continues to expand as you train and deploy together. But there's a lot of training, there's a lot of things that we do in training that are very high risk and just straight up tough. So you experience these these really hard times together. And I think hard times build strong men.
That's good stuff. That is good stuff. How important, because I think this is what's great, because now you're involved in building people. How important is teamwork to successfully completing a mission?
Oh, it's extremely important. You know what I mean? The teamwork aspect of anything that involves a team obviously needs teamwork, right? So to stop putting the individual ahead of the mission, and you hear the term submit, and a lot of times the word submit with mixed martial arts and stuff like that is looked at as like a negative word. But submit is really, don't direct quote me on this, but essentially the definition of submit is putting your personal goals or what your wants are sub the mission. So you're sub the mission, so the mission comes first. And when you put the mission first, and the only way to achieve that in many cases is to work together. I mean, you could take that into any sport, even sports that are like individual sports, like mixed martial arts, even with you doing your strongman stuff, like there's got to be a support system behind that that's helping guide you and coach you and, keep your head in the game. And whatnot. So everyone plays a part. One of the things to consider when we're talking about military stuff, we're talking about SEALs right now, but one of the things to consider is if you look at an aircraft carrier, depending on what they're doing and at what point of a deployment cycle, can house anywhere from like 3,000 to 5,000 people. and they might have like 30 or 40 jets. An aircraft carrier is for the jet. So you have like 30 to 40 pilots. And let's say on the low end, you have 3,000 people on the boat, on the ship, supporting those 30 pilots, not including all the people who are back in the harbor, right? Back at the port with all the maintenance crews and all this stuff when it comes in, when they come back in to fix that piece of that machine. And then to, to supply that machine. Like, so if you get outside of that, it's like thousands upon thousands of more people involved for 30 dudes or 30 women to fly the jets. You know what I mean? So the pilots can think they're, a big deal, and they are a big deal, right? But at the same time, that pilot will never leave that flight deck without all those people playing their role in the bigger mission. And the pilot doesn't do anything if the ship doesn't move, because the jet doesn't fly from here all the way around the world or whatever. So they need that ship to be able to move, so in that aspect of it, it's a much bigger thing. But when you look at the support system, even just around a SEAL team, there's way more people in support of the SEALs than there are of actually SEALs doing operations. And within the operation, you guys need each other to be able to do those, the things that we do. You need, especially working in small elite groups, every man really counts because there's only a few of you.
Man, that is powerful perspective. I mean, there's so many things I think people are probably scribbling down when they're going to be listening on this podcast. They're going to be scribbling down these lessons because, again, it's just the power of perspective there when you think about teamwork. And you are a great leadership trainer. You train at the corporate level, you train at the local level, the church level. What are some key leadership lessons and qualities that you think everybody should be developing? Like, there's a few key things that, doesn't matter who you are, what you want to accomplish in life. Here's a couple leadership things you need to be working on right now.
I would say, to start off, don't try to be the leader.
Fantastic. Right? Love it.
So instead of trying, I know a lot of people who want to be the leader. And it's like, if you want to be the leader and you want to put yourself in that position, you're going to wind up being a dictator. So enjoy the part of the growth phase to where you are the doer and you lead by example in the position you're in. Any person in any job and any position of that job or company, you can be a leader. You can lead first by setting the example. You can lead by helping pull the people below you up, and you can help by supporting the people who are above you do their job more effectively. Make your boss look good. You know what I mean? Like, other people will notice. Right? Even if you don't get the credit, other people notice. And what happens is they start looking up to you because of your characteristics and your personality, and you're leading again by example, not because you're in the position. And then what happens is you do the best at whatever position you're in. And then by default, people start looking to you for guidance because they go, this person is good at what they do. You know what I mean? And then by default, next thing you know, you have people coming to you for advice. You have people coming to you for help. And now you start to rise up in that, and you want to pull the people below you. And because the thing is like, you want to be that person that no matter what team or what position you're in, everyone else around you is winning. You know what I mean? And if everyone else around you is winning, then you're doing the company the service, you're doing the team its service, right? And then later on, when you do start to become into a leadership position, I would say one of the big things is, listen to what the people around you have to say. Listen to other subject matter experts. If there's something that someone's really good at, listen to what they have to say on it. That doesn't mean you have to do what their input is, but don't just wave that off. Like, take that under consideration. And then you make a decision based on all the information that you're gathering from the big picture. And maybe sometimes those people's input, you use it, and maybe sometimes you don't, but don't be the know-it-all. Be open to taking suggestion that doesn't show weakness, that shows you're being smart and strategic about the position you're in. And then I would say on one more other like simple thing is, as you start to give people tasks, now that you're in the leadership position, you start dictating tasks to the other people within your organization or within your team. set people up for success. Give people jobs to do that are within their strength zone. You know what I mean? Like, don't put someone in charge of accounting and, but like balancing some numbers, or put them in charge of something that has to do with numbers if they suck at numbers. You know what I mean? Or if someone's like not good with people, like don't make them make those cold calls to go set up an event or a meeting, or to try to set up strategic relations with other partners, if they're not a people person. Let them do something. If they're more of like the engineer mindset, numbers mindset, let them do a budget. You know what I mean? But it's a simple thing when I say it, but many times we put people in positions of something that we know they're not good at, and then we're surprised when they fail. And when they fail, it makes you look bad, and then you want to hammer them because now you're like, oh, well, I'm the boss, so it looks bad on me. So, you know what I mean? So set your team up for success, stack the cards in their favor. And when you're doing that, take in their information and take it under consideration. And if you do that, they're going to feel like that they're useful, and that they're being heard, and that you rightly so respect them. And it'll make them want to work for you more when one of those times come up that's kind of like, is he just being an idiot right now? They're going to give you more grace, and they're going to give you more trust. Really what it is they're going to trust your decision making, because they trust you more, because they're following you. You're not dictating them.
What a radical difference this would make if people put this into practice. I mean, so many people, what happens is leadership is kind of thrust upon them. It's a position rather than leading as a character or as who you are as a person. And so I love that advice. I mean, that is gold there. Can you share with us how the full spectrum warrior system came about? I mean, you're the creator of this thing. Can you share with us how that all came into being?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, to the shorter end of it was when I got out of the military, I wasn't planning on getting out of the military. I had a medical condition that developed while I was overseas. And basically my time got cut short. I say my time got cut short because I wasn't ready to get out. And when I came back and got out of the military, I was like, well, what do I do now? And while I was trying to figure that out, I started personal training. And as I was personal training, I then started, running, I was Thai boxing a lot. I was assisting. I was running some martial arts training classes and self-defense stuff. And then I actually got invited out to help assist with some law enforcement training. And when I got to the law enforcement training, I was having the guys do some stuff where we'd shoot from like the kneeling position, things that in the SEALs we do all the time, prone, laying on your stomach, kneeling, squatting, using cover and barricades, to help protect you while, fighting back against the threat. And what I found was a lot of these law enforcement officers, not to bash them, but a lot of these law enforcement officers couldn't get into these simple positions. And they wanted me to teach them the stuff that it took to be a Navy SEAL, but they didn't have the core fundamentals even in place to be able to do a simple thing like shooting from the kneeling position without standing up like, oh, they get up like, oh, my knees, my back, and all this. And, some of that's like just wear and tear on the body from doing the job. But at the same time, if we have that kind of wear and tear on the body, like maybe we're doing things wrong, that are injuries we're taking on that we shouldn't be taking on because our movement patterns are off, our neurological, communication between the, between our body is off. We have the wrong muscles creating the wrong movements, which are leading to, injuries. And I know you deal a lot with this stuff with your training, the whole neural pathway of all this. So there's a lot of these things from a health and fitness, a mentality, that come into play that we need as a general foundation before we can even get into doing the combatives and doing the advanced shooting and tactics and techniques and all this. But people come to me for the shooting. So when I try to do it from ground level up, people are like, oh, I don't have time for that. Just teach me how to shoot like a Navy SEAL. And it's like, okay, guys, we'll do some shooting. But then through the training, I let them come to the realization that, wow, I am not physically fit enough to do all of this stuff. Okay, I'm glad we have that understanding. Let me help guide you through some mobility and range of motion exercises, some fitness things, maybe a diet plan that we can do to help support you as the foundation, because the shooting aspect and all the gear, that's I consider that a technical skill, right? That's not like, but you are the foundation of that. Because take the pistol away, throw a rifle in, take the rifle away, do a bow and arrow, take that away, maybe use some, drone technology, and like whatever the technology is, that comes and goes, and that's always changing. The foundation that's always there is you. So many times we put all of our confidence, or all of our what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, a lot of times we just look for the crutch to be the equipment. And my job, like one of the things that I like to do, is to help remind people that they are the most prized piece of equipment there. Like their body and them, their mentality, all that comes first. Then the other part is just technical, So that was kind of where I saw the need. And then over the years, we've just been running different courses to help fulfill that.
Man, it's so amazing. And again, people always want to have the end product. They don't want to pay the price.
Yeah.
A lot of times when I'm training an athlete, because mobility is a big thing with all the injuries I've had, it's like, we're going to spend this day, we're just doing mobility. We're not even going to put weight on the bar today. We're going to learn how to operate it correctly. Or the same thing when we work with kettlebells, I don't want you jerking that thing around if you don't have the shoulder mobility to even get it over your head. So I think that's just such a great way and good perspective for people to see just what is involved. And again, you have so many different courses, but one of the things that really kind of touched my heart, and I'd like you to share more about this, is the whole Homefront Canine Project and then the SEAL Swim Charities. Now, with the SEAL Swim Charities, did you guys just have an event in New York City? Was that through you too?
That was a SEAL Swim, but that wasn't our event.
Okay, I just wondered. I happened to see some footage of that, but can you share some about the charities? Because I think, this is such not only a heartwarming thing, but something that people need to get involved with and support.
Yeah, I mean, not to go like too off on a tangent into spiritual stuff, but I just felt called to try to make a difference. And God had called me to try to help with veteran suicide prevention. And years ago, I started doing some different fundraiser things. I did a cross-country bicycle ride with two of my friends. We rode from San Diego to Virginia Beach and raised a bunch of money for a veteran charity for college scholarships. And I felt like we made an impact, but at the same time, not to bash colleges and all that kind of stuff, but I just felt like, we're helping my friends, children, but at the same time, I was just like, am I really making the impact that I thought I was going to make? And I just personally felt like I can make a bigger impact than just college scholarships. So what we started to do was set up different events, and I found another charity, which is called Operation Restored Warrior. And they were helping rebuild veterans who are on the brink of suicide. And for years, we were fundraising for them and doing different events, like this 250-mile cycling event that we did in Florida called the Warrior Grind. And then we did this event called, Navy SEAL Swim Lake Norman. My friend and I, we do a 14-mile relay across Lake Norman in North Carolina. And we did a New York City triathlon. We set up a shark fishing tournament. And that's where SEAL Swim Charities started, because we basically started SEAL Swim Charities so we could go raise money by doing all these big events to then go give the money to other charities. So SEAL Swim Charities is basically a charity that raises money to help support the other charities that are actually doing the legwork to make that change in these people's lives. So after we did that for a while and doing all these crazy events and raising lots of money for these charities, Operation Restored Warrior got tons of traction. They're having amazing growth. They've got some really big sponsors and contributors now. And I just felt like, hey, we helped get them going. Like, they're good. I don't feel like they truly need us anymore. Like, where else can we make an impact? And one of the things that I had seen was how much people were having impact with service dogs. And um, and I had been a canine handler at the time, and I was doing stuff like that. Like we went down to Haiti after the earthquake, and we were helping there. We went to the Bahamas after the giant uh, hurricane later last year. We went there and we did search and rescue mission and retrieving bodies out of the rubble there. It was horrible, but so I had been working with the dogs, and we're just like, what if we start a nonprofit that trains up service dogs? And the difference with what we do with Homefront Canine is we find families in the special forces communities, because we got to narrow it down and make it a niche.
Sure.
So we serve all the branches, but in the special forces community. And what we do is we train up service dogs for the family while they're still active duty. Because what you'll see is a lot of guys will do 10, 15, 20 years, then get out. And by this point, they've already got divorced. Maybe they don't even have a relationship with their kids anymore. They get out of the military, they lose their identity, they turn to the bottle, or they're on all these stupid painkillers, from all previous injuries and stuff like that. And then we have guys commit suicide. It's like, dude, how do you go survive, the conflict and the war, 8 deployments, 12 deployments, and then you come back and the number one thing that gets you is your own mind. You know what I mean? And so what we're trying to do is put the dog with these families earlier on, and then we work with not only the special forces operator, but we also work with the family, and we help them learn how to communicate together again when they come back from deployment by bringing them down for like a week of dog training. And we have them working through drills and all this stuff with the dog, but the dog is essentially the tool for us to get the family to start talking to each other and working through these drills and scenarios and all this stuff. And you see them having to care for the dog and take the dogs for a walk. So it's like, how often does a dude go walk with his family? I don't know. It's a case by case basis, but we throw the dog in the mix. It's like, hey guys, why don't you take, 20 minutes, go take the dog for a walk? They're like, yeah, awesome. And, you see them out there, walking out on our ranch and, holding hands with their family and hanging out with their kids, and the kids are having fun with the dog. So it's been a great nonprofit, and we've really been making an impact in a lot of families.
Rich, that fires me up. And because what's so cool about this is how God's using you. And I think people that are listening need to understand is that God has put you on this planet for a reason, and it is to make a difference. And if you open your life to him and say, what do you want me to do? He'll put a dream in your heart. He'll make you aware. I mean, that's one of the great things I love about, Navy SEALs or tactical people in general, is they're trained to be aware, to see things that nobody else sees. And what I love is that you're looking for needs that, the world just kind of goes by and has forgotten so many times about our vets. And I love that God is using you in that way. And, you talked about the home a little bit. Can you just give one thing, if people were listening to this, because you do all these things about home protection and the courses, you have all kinds of stuff that you offer, but what's one practical thing that a listener could do today that every family could do to protect their home? I mean, if they're listening today and say, I need to start somewhere before I can take a course, what's one thing I can do right now?
Okay, so this will be a universal thing for any state you live in, because I know there's different gun laws and all that stuff in all the different states. One of the things that I would recommend is this. When you go to your house and you go to bed, right? Many times when you go home, what do we do with our keys? We just throw them on the table right there by the door, right? So what I would recommend doing is bringing your car keys with you into the bedroom and leaving them next to your nightstand when you go to sleep. And now if you hear something, or you think there's someone down in downstairs, or there's someone creeping around the house, right? What's the first thing we think about doing? Is we go turn on the lights, and so we can see and go, oh, what's that? Well, when you turn on the lights, you can't see out the windows, but they can see into windows, right? So turning on the lights really isn't the trick. It's one of those things that we do out of habit because we want to be able to see things, but the reality is we know our house better than the bad guy does. So we don't really need the lights on yet. What I recommend though is if you think you hear something or you think someone's creeping around, no one wants to get caught. And if they haven't made it to your bedroom yet, one of the best things we can do, just regardless of what state you're in and what the gun laws are, is hit that panic button on your car. And it doesn't matter that you're not out in a parking lot. People think the panic button's for when you're in a parking lot. You can hit that panic button, right? And the car's going off and the horn's beeping in the driveway. No one wants to get caught. If someone's creeping around the house, they're going to run. More so than a sensor light, because you put up sensor lights and people trip sensor lights, but the cat trips the sensor light. The sensor light goes on and off. A windy night, you know, and the tree branches or the bushes are blowing can trip the sensor light. So people start at first when they get sensor lights, they're kind of like, ooh, something's lit up the yard. But after a while, you're just like, yeah, it's probably the cat again. You know, but if you hear something and you think before going out and investigating and walking around the house and walking outside, if you think you hear something, one of the best things you can do is hit that alarm, let the alarm go off for like 20 seconds. And, you know, you can apologize to the neighbors later if you woke them up, you know.
Who cares? You know, you saved a life,
or,
you know.
You know, you could just, however you want to handle that. But to keep the advantage, right, of your room and put out a verbal alarm that's going to make people want to run away because they don't want to be caught will probably help save you from a direct conflict. Because if you go try to find the bad guy in your home, or if you think there's a bad guy in your yard and you go to them, now you lose the advantage of holding your ground, right? I would also say have a strategic place within your home. If you think something's happened, call 911, call the police, do that alarm thing, and hold a position to where you can overwatch a certain portion of your home where you have the advantage. Because it's always harder, right? That's one of the hard things about being on the assault team. It's always harder to go to the person than it is to wait for the person to come to you. Because as you go into new environments and new rooms, you're having to take in and process the information. When you're holding the position and you're holding the ground, you already have evaluated the area, and now you're just looking for little things that are new. There's no new angles. There's no, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's always better if you're going to defend your home to wait and do something like that with the alarm. The other thing with doing that, if that person makes it to your bedroom and you set the alarm off, now you go, well, what is their actual intent? Right? Because when I go and meet them in the kitchen or something like that, it's like, oh, well, maybe they weren't planning on doing anything bad to me, right? But now I run into them and now they feel like they have to fight because they're afraid of going to jail. Well, if I set that alarm off and they don't run and try to get away, then I go, well, why are they actually here? Maybe there's something more than my TV that they wanted. Maybe it's something personal. And now that helps me with my judgment call of what do I do when I'm confronted with this bad guy? It shortens that decision cycle because I basically gave them the warning and gave them the out and they didn't take it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's just one simple little thing among a million things we could do. But that's just one little simple thing that pretty much everyone has car keys with a panic button. Don't leave them next to the front door. Bring them with you in your room when you go to bed.
So everybody's listening to this now. They're going to want to sign up for this course. So that was enough to
go
get.
Do a test run tonight. Your neighbors will appreciate it.
I mean,
make sure it works from your bedroom.
That really whetted everybody's appetite. I mean, I was sitting here going, this guy's a genius. I mean, that's just, it's little things. And I love you talking about the advantage. And speaking of that, we'll switch gears one more time and then we'll wrap things up. But yeah. Speaking of the advantage, what makes the Navy SEAL kettlebell training different than traditional kettlebell training? You know, because I think the kettlebell is like one of the greatest tools on the planet to use. I've written books about it. I mean, it's just a fantastic tool. But what makes what gives you the advantage there by using your style of training?
So the kettlebell program was designed. I basically designed this program to help rebuild myself after my big surgery where they did a first rib resection. And I had nerve damage in my arm and I had to rebuild a lot of that. And then I also had some back and neck injuries. And through the process of me rebuilding myself, I was sharing the program that I had made for myself, and I've had a lot of people get great results with it. One of the things with this program, and it's not like I've necessarily invented anything new. Obviously, movement is movement, and movement patterns are like we all know them, but it's just basically the idea with this. When I was watching kettlebells, I loved kettlebells, but most of the kettlebell training is geared toward competition.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So for me, I go, well, I'm not competing in kettlebell training. So I'm not looking to do a catch and to like let my shoulders sink to use the least amount. And for people who haven't been training, maybe they don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But in like competition kettlebell, like let's say you're doing the long 10-minute one and it's like 100 reps of snatches, or a similar exercise, and you have 10 minutes, you have to do 100 reps, and you can only switch hands one time. So each hand, and you have to figure out when do you do that. There's strategy to this. But so the whole idea is to move the weight, but using the least amount of energy as possible. So it's great, and it's definitely a hard workout. But what I was trying to build was corrective movements to strengthen my posture and keep my core strong, and to have that as my fundamental, and then everything going out from my spinal alignment and my spinal strength out through the extremities. When I say spinal strength, I'm talking about like the muscles that surround my spine and hold it in its position. And from that, what I would do is a lot of exercises. Like, so the levels 1 through 3 is all with one kettlebell. You can use whatever weight you want, but it's with one kettlebell. So one of the things that we're doing is a lot of offset weight exercises. So if I hold the weight out here or in the rack position or whatever, what happens if I relax, it makes my collarbone dip. And this is easier for me to hold the weight, but I'm not using the core. So in this, I would essentially try to keep my collarbone flat, my back straight. And now holding the kettlebell here is like much harder. Most people wouldn't tell you to do it like that because it's too physically exerting. But my whole point is trying to make my core strong. Yep. So in this, that's what we're looking for. So we're doing the exercises where our posture is rigid, but our legs are soft. We're still soft in the catches. We're absorbing it. So a lot of acceleration and deceleration. And then some of the things that you would appreciate, and I'm sure you've seen, is like the bottoms up kind of exercises. Yep. So instead of taking the kettlebell and adding weight, we can change it to where we're doing exercises where we're balancing the kettlebell. And now I'm developing all that neural pathway and all those fine twitch muscles that help support the joints and help build our ability to have balance and coordination through those similar lifts. So now we're working our core, we're working our neurological system in much more depth and getting things activated that may have been neglected by using straight bars or machines. And I just found that athletes who've done this training wind up having a much stronger core and have much more power than you would expect them to have. So a lot of times when I'm doing martial arts stuff or whatever with people, they feel like they're like, dude, you don't feel like you're 165 pounds. You know what I mean? And not that I'm like the strongest dude out there, but my ability to generate force is at a much higher level than the average person who's 165 pounds. Right and maybe not on isolated movements, but being able to utilize my body in conjunction as a team, as a chain to create a movement, and then that's kind of like the idea with it. And, we've just found it's been beneficial.
Yeah, people, you need to check this out because Rich is right on, with what we really want makes the kettlebell to me effective is it's inefficient. We want to create a mechanical disadvantage. That's what makes you strong. But, those who want to compete, in the snatch test or those who want to compete in the long cycle, clean and press, it's a totally different thing. There's an efficiency, but we want to build work capacity. We want to make it mechanically this disadvantage to us because to me, that's the real benefit of the kettlebell is doing it inefficiently. I'm not saying bang yourself, or letting it just flop over, but you want to feel that. You want to actually control that lopsided weight. That's what makes it an advantage over dumbbells. So people that are listening, you need to check this out. I mean, he's going to be a fantastic teacher, but you're going to learn how to become efficient with an inefficient movement. And that's what makes it really, really powerful.
but that's real life.
Yeah,
You know what I
absolutely. That's
mean?
what I'm saying. That's why I think
And
it carries over to so many people.
yeah, and because for me personally, like, and nothing against CrossFit and nothing against Olympic lifters and power lifters and all that stuff. Like, if that's your passion, that's awesome. For me personally, the lifting isn't my sport. So the lifting is to support my practical application of tactical skills or combative skills. So when I'm leaning around a corner with body armor on, holding my 12-pound, 15-pound rifle and trying to hold this position where I'm trying to minimize my exposure, and I'm in this awkward position to still be able to maintain that, that core strength and to be able to manage the torque within my grip strength and all this stuff of this odd object that I'm holding. And maybe that's not relatable to everybody, but you look at this stuff for, picking up your kids or moving your kids, or, working on a construction site where you're picking up weird things and they're heavy on one end and long or whatever, and there's all this torque and this awkward balance of things, so it comes into the everyday things that we do, or even in athletics, the everyday things that we do aren't necessarily isolated movements, and they're not controlled, and they're not always repetitive in the same way. So, there's a lot of, interesting and challenging exercises we can do, that we can throw in, and maybe it's something you just throw in on your off days to give yourself a new challenge and to kind of change the game up, and then you go back to what you were doing before. But yeah.
But everybody can benefit from that kind of training. I mean, everybody's going to carry a load of groceries sometime. Everybody's going to carry something, so I think it's just so good. Well, this has been so much great stuff today. I am fired up, and I've got one last question, and it's kind of a two-parter. Where can people learn more about you, the training, your charities, and is there anything else you want to share, any final thoughts? Because, again, I really want people to look up some of these courses and get involved with this. So if you could share that with us.
Yeah, I would say here's just I find this to be a good piece of advice because I learned it the hard way. And when I have people who ask about going into the military, and this doesn't only have to be with the military, this could be with your job, this could be on a sports team and all this kind of stuff. So when people go, hey, Rich, I want to join the Navy, what should I do? And everyone's asking me about swim, push-ups, pull-ups, all these like physical exercise stuff. And my recommendation to them is, dude, honestly, go read a book like The Art of Dealing with People or The 360-Degree Leader,
Great book.
Or How to Win Friends and Influence People. And people are like, why would I read that? It's like, because the hardest part of going to Navy boot camp is putting 99, 18-year-olds to 20-year-olds in a room and trying to have anything productive happen because everyone's egos are in the way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Any
Absolutely.
workspace environment that you go into, one of the things as a personal trainer, which, once you know how to, a push-up's a push-up. So you got 20 personal trainers, and all the personal trainers, for the most part, are going to tell you to do a push-up basically the same way. Mm-hmm. So what changes the one trainer from the other trainer? And a lot of that has to do with your people skills and your ability to work with other people and just the ability to communicate. So I would say from, as cliche and cheesy as self-help books and communication skills books seem, go grab one. Go start, investing some time in your own mind, investing some time in your personal growth. We spend a lot of time in the gym. We spend a lot of time, some maybe women on here, we spend a lot of time in front of the mirror. How much time do we spend with a book open, investing into ourselves and investing into our minds? And I think that's a very important thing that's, overlooked nowadays. And there's a lot of people look for the shortcut, like, oh, I'll listen to the audio CD of it. And it's like, there's something about reading a book every now and then to keep your brain fresh. And, but again, your ability to work with a team starts with your ability to be able to communicate. You know what I mean? So I would say invest in yourself, keep building your communication skills. I'm not a finished product. I'm still learning. You know what I mean? I'm still, investing in myself as well. But yeah, that's just like one little tip that I think will go a long way because, then you can start to to make things happen in a productive way versus just getting a bunch of fist fights and arguing and yelling at each other. You watch the threads on social media and you're like, wow,
crazy.
there's no communication skills whatsoever here. Everyone's just, just the way people talk to each other nowadays is crazy. So that's what I would say with that. Anything to add on to that?
Yeah, if any people can find out more about you, the charities, the courses, should they go to the Full Spectrum Warrior website? Where can they learn more about you?
Yeah, definitely come visit our website. It's fullspectrumwarriors.com. And there you can find links to our YouTube channel and Instagram and our podcast and our online training courses that are coming up. So that's fullspectrumwarriors.com. And then you can basically find what you need from there. The charity is homefrontcanine.org. So canine is the K9, not written out in the word. So homefrontcanine.org. And you can get information there again to the social media platforms, but all the mission statement and all that's there on that if you want to check it out.
Awesome. I want to thank our guest, Rich Graham, today for investing in all of our listeners today. Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.